In today's changing climate, with global temperatures rising and extreme weather events becoming more common, it's vital that we all understand what changes we should expect to happen to our weather and climate in the future. For instance, research has already been done into hurricanes and hailstorms and found that they're likely to become less frequent, but when they do occur, they will be more intense and destructive. Major snowstorms are also very important to understand in a changing climate since they have the ability to shut down entire cities and cause extensive damage. Colin Zarzycki, an assistant professor of meteorology and climate dynamics at Penn State, recently published his own research about how major northeastern snowstorms will be impacted by climate change.
Our climate models project there's going to be significantly less snow in the northeastern United States on average by the end of this coming century. But what I was really interested in is what that meant for the strength of the individual snowstorms that the northeast U.S. tends to see. Obviously, kind of these bigger whopper nor'easter type cyclones tend to have significantly more impact on the economy, on people's day-to-day lives, on transportation. So essentially what we found is we actually saw that all of that decrease that we are projected to see in snowfall, or the vast majority of that decrease, is actually associated with smaller, kind of more nuisance level events. And that these really big, kind of, impactful storms that we see, once every few years kind of move up the eastern seaboard, those are actually projected to occur with roughly the same frequency, even with a significantly warmer atmosphere.
Even though Colin did not find changes in the number of major winter storms that will impact the Northeast in the coming decades, he did find differences in the type of precipitation that these storms will produce.
What does change is the kind of partitioning between rain and snow. So obviously we would see if we had a warmer atmosphere, we would expect to have kind of more of the precip in winter falling as rain. But the other thing that we also saw was that because the atmosphere was warmer and because the ocean surfaces are warmer, it kind of allows for a more moist system.
This means that these major northeastern snowstorms will be able to carry more moisture and precipitation with them in the future due to a warmer climate. With more moisture for these storms to work with, and if it's cold enough for snow to fall, increased snowfall rates can occur with these high-impact nor'easters in the future. In order for Colin to pick out and analyze these individual nor'easters in his research, he had to use climate models that can represent storms in the future, like this one.
We have this very large, we call an ensemble, so it's kind of multiple versions of the same climate model that we ran for 180 years. And then what we actually do is we write a small piece of software, because these are very massive data sets on our supercomputers. And we write a little piece of software that actually goes in and extracts the snowstorms automatically. So we don't have to have, a researcher actually looking at the individual maps and saying, here's a snowstorm, here's a snowstorm, here's a snowstorm. So after that software kind of runs on our system, it pulls out the storms, and then we can actually just process them and look statistically. It kind of makes a really, really big problem much more kind of focused.
To determine what storms are the most impactful, Colin used a scale referred to as the Regional Snowfall Index. This index takes the amount of snow that falls from a certain snowstorm and correlates it to the population density of a certain region. Similar to the Saffir-Simpson scale for hurricanes, the Regional Snowfall Index ranks snowstorm impacts on a scale from 1 to 5. This was very helpful for Colin's research to determine what snowstorms are the most impactful. Colin also mentioned that some changes to our infrastructure will need to occur so that we are prepared for the effects of these major snowstorms in the future, especially with a growing population.
So as far as the snowstorms go, I think what this is telling us is that we need to continue kind of our strategies for mitigating the impact of these storms when they happen. One other finding of this research, obviously, is that we have a significant change in how much precipitation in the winter falls as rain versus snow. So I think one big thing we're going to have to start thinking about from an infrastructure standpoint is kind of our flood mitigation and water storage strategies. A lot of things like the dams that we have in the northeastern United States were built over the last 50 years and are probably not, we're probably not adequately prepared for kind of additional rainfall and more rain falling on top of snowpack in the future. And these are things we're going to have to probably address within the next couple decades.
So even though we can expect less snow annually here in the northeastern United States because of climate change, the large and crippling nor'easters won't be going away, according to Colin Zarzycki. For Weather or Not, I'm Jacob Morris.